Hello, the irreplaceable community. I hope you're fine. Uh, Today, we have the chance to talk with Drew Boyd. Drew is one of the world experts in creativity, creative thinking, innovation. As we've all seen in the irreplaceable framework, um, in order to be relevant in the future, we need to build the three Humics. So basically the three uniquely human abilities. And one of them is genuine creativity, the creativity and the novelty that can only come from a human brain that is very different from a mix and match coming from technology that is only using existing data. So this creativity is very human because it's coming from our own emotions, our life stories, our personalities, and that's why they are uniquely human. So in order to build this creativity to a new level and be able to create the highest level of synergy with technology, we need to learn how to do that. And no one else better than Drew to help us understand what are the existing frameworks and what are the tips that we should that we should use to exercise ourselves and be able to build on that. But first of all, Drew, can you tell us a bit about you? So you're a
Sure.
professor, I mean, I would love to know more about you.
Great. And first of all, thank you for inviting me. Uh, the quick story, I'm a professor at the University of Cincinnati. I'm a professor in the College of Business where I teach creative thinking. I also teach other cognitive skills like how to influence people, as well as strategy, commercialization skills primarily. But I'm not your traditional academic. I have a long background in the corporate world as well, where I've worked in marketing for some 40 years. And yeah, a long time. um, but my passion really is creative thinking. And so I spend a lot of time working with organizations, much like you do with companies in terms of AI. I work with them on innovation and creative thinking, teaching people how to be more innovative and more creative, because innovation is really the only true source of organic growth. You can buy your market share, you can cut costs, but at the end of the day, you need internal innovation to grow the most efficiently and most effectively. So that's what I do.
Amazing. Thanks for being with us, and we look forward to all the insights that you have to share with us.
Great.
Very simple question for you. Is there any framework that can help us conceptualize how creativity works and be
Yeah.
a kind of foundation for us to understand how we can build it?
Yes, absolutely. Creative thinking is a skill. It's not a gift. It's not something you're born with. Uh, Everybody has the capacity to be more creative, no matter where you're starting from on the creativity scale. I don't care if you have zero creativity or a lot. What I'm about to share with you will help move you up the creativity scale. And here's the story.
Wow, that's exciting.
It's very exciting. So here's the background to this. For thousands of years, everyday innovators and inventors have used patterns in their inventions, usually without even realizing it. And those patterns are now embedded in the products and services you see around you every day. I want you to think of these patterns as the DNA of a product or service. Well, imagine if you had a way to take that DNA, that pattern, and reapply it to anything that you wanted to innovate. It could be a product at work, a service, a business model, a process. What is even more surprising, based on my co-author's research, is that most innovations in the world could be explained by just 5 patterns. 5 patterns. That's it.
That's amazing.
And those patterns help channel your ideation. They guide your thinking for you. We have a name for this method. It's called systematic inventive thinking, or SIT for short. And the way it works very simply is this. I'll share two key principles with your viewers now that will help them be and start to think more creatively. The first one is this. Most people think that to be innovative, you have to start with a problem and then find a solution to that problem, from problem to solution. Well, guess what? What if I told you we could turn that around? What if I told you that you actually could start with a solution that you don't know what it does, and then work backwards to the problem that it solves? It turns out, guess what? It turns out humans are actually better at that direction than the other direction. Let me see if I can prove it to you. Pascal, I want you to imagine I'm holding a baby's milk bottle. This milk bottle changes color when the temperature of the milk changes. So quickly, why would that be a benefit? Tell me right now.
Yeah, you don't want to burn your baby. Huh?
You don't want to burn your baby. Exactly right. And I'm sure you and all your viewers immediately saw that. Okay. How long did it take you? Not even a second.
Yes.
Not even a second. But let's do it again. What if I had said to you this? What if I had said to you that, hey, team, we need to come up with a way to not burn a baby with milk that's too hot? How long would it take us right now to come up with the color-changing milk bottle? What do you think?
Yeah, maybe days, weeks,
maybe never.
Yeah, maybe never.
Oh, no, it's true. And this backwards way of thinking has been long identified in the psychology research. We call it function follows form, that the human mind holds in its head this pre-inventive form right before it generates an idea. And so what our 5 patterns do is they help you create these hypothetical solutions, like a color-changing milk bottle. They create it for you, and then you get the fun part to figure out what would be the benefit of it. Now, one other key idea to help your viewers think about being more creative is this. We call it the principle of constraints. Most people think constraints are a barrier to their creative thinking. Well, I have news for you. Constraints are actually a driver of creative thinking. Constraints are a necessary condition for creative thinking to occur. We call it inside the box thinking. And I'm talking about constraints like constraints of time, money, scope, maybe constraints of legal constraints or regulatory constraints, things that you know very well in the world of AI, things that are put around AI systems to prevent bias and many other cancers that can affect AI. Well, the same thing goes for creative thinking. You put yourself under tight constraints inside the box. Inside the box, you use these patterns to regulate your thinking, and then you channel your ideation this way to see a new, novel idea that you hadn't seen before. So the method, once again, it's called systematic inventive thinking. It's a formalized, structured method, the research of which has been published in the 2 most prestigious journals in the world, peer-reviewed journals, Nature and Science. Now, beyond that structured method, which it doesn't take that much time. It's not that hard to learn. I've taught it to CEOs. I've taught it to third graders and everybody in between. So we like the method because it's accessible. It's not that complicated to learn. But there are also some general things that people can do that I can share with you right now.
Yeah, Drew, can you, what are those 5?
The 5 patterns, sure.
Yeah.
Great. So
I accept if on purpose you wanted to leave it for the end, or
that's okay. Let's go ahead and
I'm excited. I want to know.
I can see it. That's good. And then if you'd like, we can actually do an example. We didn't rehearse anything, so if you'd like, we can just do it right here on air for your viewers and see what comes up.
Yeah,
So the
okay.
five patterns, I warn you, they sound mathematically derived, but they're not. So the first pattern is called subtraction. Many inventions occur when you remove a core element rather than adding new systems or functions. Next is task unification.
Sorry, are you going back to it later in detail, or is it so what does or can you give it an example? Subtraction.
Okay, so subtraction, an example of subtraction would be, for example, an ATM machine, or the removal of a person in the equation now, an ATM machine. If you look at contact lenses, right? Contact lenses, what has been removed?
Okay.
The frame.
Yes.
Yes. The next tool is,
so simplify, kind of simplify, reduce
kind
the
of,
amount.
It's removing something you thought you had to have. It's not just leaning it out to save money. It's taking something away that seemed integral, and to let you see a new opportunity.
Yes, very good.
The next one is called task unification. Task unification is defined as forcing a component to do a new job, an additional job, something it wasn't originally designed to do. So, for example, in your car, in your rear window, maybe not where you live in Miami, but the rear window has wires running through it. Yes. Do you know what those wires are?
I thought it was for the fog.
For fog and ice. Yeah. But guess what else? It's also the antenna for many cars.
Huh? Wow.
Okay. Do you see the task unification? How two functions have been unified. Very popular, a very popular pattern. The next one is called multiplication. Multiplication is when you take a component of the system and you force it to copy itself, but change in some sort of qualitative, counterintuitive way. So, for example, bifocal glasses. Glasses have the main lens, but then they have a second lens to help people read close up. The fourth tool is called division. Division is when you take a component or a product, you cut it physically or functionally, you divide out the component and rearrange it somewhere else. All right, so you have the product or system, you cut a component out and put it somewhere else. Okay. So, for example, a drone, right? What has been cut out and moved? The pilot. The pilot is cut out of the plane and placed somewhere else, like on the ground or in another airplane. Yes. And the fifth one is a little abstract, but it's called attribute dependency. What that means is this. Attribute dependency is when you take two attributes of the system, one of the product and one of its environment, and you force a dependency between the two of them. As one thing changes, another thing changes. Mm-hmm. So, for example, color changing milk bottle. As the temperature changes, the color changes. Uh-huh. Or windshield wipers in your car that will speed up or slow down by themselves depending on the amount of rain. Yeah. Classic example of attribute dependency. And when you learn this method, Pascal, what happens is you realize these patterns are all around you every day. It's not hard at all to find them existing in everyday products and services, which makes the method so powerful in its ability to create new ideas.
Excellent. And so we can use any of those five, or we can combine some of those five. correct.
You
Right. It's not.
typically you use one at a time, but what happens is very, very typically, we'll use one pattern, you'll create some new product, and then you'll say, oh, and by the way, we could also have it do this. So you're mixing task unification and division. It's very, very common to
But
use two tools.
got it. But you usually you will first use one and then
Use one.
use the other one. Yeah, got it.
Yeah.
But very, very interesting. So that's I can definitely see the use in industrial innovation, in the all the innovation of the objects that are around us.
Yeah.
Uh, can we use the same framework for for creating services? It's the same.
Yes.
So we can,
Yes, absolutely. So
creating stories, and I would think more
Sure.
artistic.
Yeah, you absolutely can use it for more artistic reasons. For example, book writing or poetry or stories, anything that can be broken into components. So the most common question I get is, what about services? And in my mind, a product and a service are the same.
Yes.
They're one just happens to have all the components stuck together. The other just happens to have all the components spread out. But they both serve to deliver benefits to customers. And in that sense, they are comprised of components and therefore subject to the SIT method. The patterns will manipulate them to create some new configuration you wouldn't have thought of on your own. And that's the beauty of them. You want to try it?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. Okay, let's let's try it. I'm going to ask you to pick a product or service that you would like to experiment with. Now we didn't prepare in advance for this, so I have no idea what you're going to give me.
I have this pen.
Okay, let's take that pen. Now, I'm going to ask you to pick one of the 5 patterns. I'll name them, and you just pick which one you want. Subtraction, task unification, multiplication, division, or attribute dependency. Which one would you like to use?
Subtraction will be very difficult.
Subtraction, okay. I sometimes I feel like a magician, right? Saying, nothing up my sleeves. All right.
I try to pick the most complex because a pen is already very simplified.
Oh, that's okay.
Subtracting something seems very difficult. Yeah.
All right. Now I want you to imagine that pen, and you're going to take it. You don't have to do this, but imagine you took it apart and you laid out all the parts on the table. Yes. So name some of the parts there on the pen. Just so you have the clip for your shirt pocket.
Yes.
You have the upper body. You have the lower body.
Yes.
You have the shroud at the end of the pen.
Yes.
You have the ink. You have the spring, and you probably have a little clicker at the end.
Yeah, it turns. Yeah, it turns like.
And you probably have some writing on it. Oh, it twists. Okay, some sort of way to extend. All right, now what I want you to do is just randomly pick one of those components. Can be any component. Just pick a component. Quickly.
Yes. The upper body.
The lower housing. The lower housing. Okay, we'll call that the lower housing. We have the upper one and the lower one, and they screw together. Now, I want you to imagine we have a pen with no lower housing. It has all the other components, but just doesn't have this lower housing. It has the little ink stem coming through. It has the shroud. You still twist it to express it, but now you'd have just the everything else, but no lower shroud.
Yes.
No lower housing. I'm sorry. Now, sounds crazy, right?
Yeah, but it would work. It would work.
Okay, well, no. So let me ask you this. Just, I want you to think about it and simply answer this question. What would be the benefit of a pen that was configured that way? What would be a benefit? Who would use it? In what situation? Would there be certain situations where that housing would get in the way? Would you want to be able to write through small spaces, for example?
Yes. Yeah,
Would
definitely.
you? All right. Would you would save money? Maybe you replace that lower housing with your own, or with some other mechanism. It sticks in, for example, another tool, and maybe you put it in a printing arm, like an
Yes.
right. And so you have this seemingly strange pen without the lower housing, and you think of all the ways you could use it now as is to create an amazing product.
Very
Let's
interesting.
imagine it's going to be used in restaurants or in
Yes.
airplanes
Yes.
or in hospitals or in a factory.
Yeah, it can be a necklace.
Well, we try to avoid those types of ideas that we call a gag gift. You know, it's we don't want to relegate it. Come on, Pascal, the pressure's on now. But you the title of your new book, which I'm very excited about, Irreplaceable, I think is when we talk about the critical skill of creative thinking, this is what the method does. It'll help force people to see things differently. Everybody knows that a pen has that lower housing, but now the method will force you to take it away so you could see a benefit you might not have seen otherwise.
Yes.
What if you were the largest manufacturer of pens in the world? A company, we have one here called Parker. In your home country of France, it was Bic, the Bic pen, I think, right? But now you are a company like Parker Pens, and you want to create growth. Who is going to walk in and say, I know if we took the lower housing off, right? That's not how people think. So you have to let the method do these changes for you. So you get to see an opportunity you might have missed, might not have seen.
Wow.
It's a very effective method. I've used it with many, many big companies like Airbus, like Macy's here in the US, many healthcare companies, pharmaceutical companies, mining companies. I think of some French companies like L'Oreal. L'Oreal use this for their salon products. Companies like Danone yogurt.
Yes, because question for you, because we don't start with the need, but
you don't start with a need, right?
Because we find out the need after the creative process, or part of or at the end of the creative process. So it means we need to create a lot of hypotheses to get to finally something that can solve the problem that we want to solve, or that.
Well, so I answer that two ways. First of all, when I describe the other way of thinking from the solution to the problem, I never said give up on problem to solution innovation. Sometimes if you have a problem and you understand it, solve it.
Yeah, okay.
Solve it. What's stopping you? If that's what the customer wants, give it to the customer.
Yeah.
What I am saying, though, is to be great innovators, two-way innovators, is to develop both approaches. Be good at problem solving, but also be good at solution solving. In other words, going from the solution back to the problem. The method actually works very well to do one of two things. It'll identify a new benefit that you're not delivering today, or it'll identify an existing benefit but delivered in a new way. And both of those are very good. Both of those can be turned into money-making opportunities or efficiencies or improve your competitiveness. So that's my answer to that. When you have needs and you understand them, okay, solve them.
That's amazing. How so it's about, first of all, breaking down the features, the existing features of a product, and and then playing with those features. Adding, subtracting, multiplying. It's a lot of math, by the way.
It sounds math, but it's not really math. I warned you. So
But
we
so sorry. So it's about breaking down those existing features to
Yep,
work
you
on
list the
these,
components,
yeah, components, and um I forgot my question then.
and then you list the components. Then you take a tool, let it manipulate a component.
Yes.
That'll create this thing we call the virtual product. You imagine it being a product, and then you identify what benefit, if it really were that way, and to discover some new consumer benefit you might not have thought of.
Yes. So when we break down those components and when we go through the approach of those five, taking one of those
Techniques.
five
Mhm.
techniques, how can we get, and if yes, how can we get AI to help us?
Good. So we've been experimenting a lot with AI. AI can help in some important ways. First of all, you could go to AI and say, create a list of components of a pen.
Yes.
All right.
So
And
that helps you to go faster,
yep,
list and be
very
complete.
fast. Yep.
Make sure you are complete. Yeah.
You could even say to AI, imagine there is no lower housing on the pen. What kinds of situations would people find that useful?
Excellent.
Why not?
Yeah.
Now, you talk about how important it is to have the human in the loop. Where AI stops short is knowing how well an idea will be accepted. AI doesn't have the empathy that
Yes.
we have. And
Yes.
we will be the ones that can look at the output of AI, which you also emphasize in your book about being able to discern value that comes out of AI. People will learn how to use AI, but the irreplaceable person will be the one that can discern the output of AI and put it to good use within the organization. That's the skill that I think is going to be so important, so irreplaceable, as you
Yes,
call it.
definitely. Yeah, I love it. I love it. So it's really bringing the nuanced human touch to the final product to make it relevant for other humans. That is the irreplaceable.
I believe so. I believe so. AI can do some good things. We've been very pleased with what it can do, and the reality is, you still have to have an eye for growth opportunities, a growth mindset, to be able to say, this idea is good, but this idea, I know I can sell this to the organization, and I'm going to build a case to push this forward. That's where the human has to step in and turn this output of AI into reality.
Excellent. But I see the input of AI, of humans being, first of all, using this approach. Secondly,
Yep.
Selecting which object you want to start from.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Then you ask AI to break down those components, and then you ask AI for each of those components what can be the use of one of those five techniques and what can be the outcome. But this can be very crowded. You can get a matrix of five times
You can get very,
five if you have a
yep.
five components. So it can be very crowded quickly. But and then you can ask the AI maybe to get a criteria or kind of
Uh-huh.
quantify the outcome,
Mm-hmm.
those five outcomes to get
Yep.
to kind of rank them maybe,
Mm-hmm.
and finally get to the top five and focus on those top five and fine tune them using our human touch to finally
Yeah,
That could be
it's
an
exactly
approach. I mean,
correct.
I was just thinking aloud.
Yeah, you were thinking aloud very well, but then you're an expert in AI, so I'm not surprised. But you've exactly detailed the process. That's exactly what this magic thing called AI and this structured creativity tool together can help people, but people that already have good, strong business acumen and skills, what I call business maturity. You and I discussed it briefly about how AI can give you marvelous things, but it can exceed a person's cognitive abilities to deal with it.
Yes,
Uh,
yes.
yeah,
Yeah, it amplifies good or bad, it amplifies it. So
it
definitely.
does. Yeah, it does.
Drew, that was amazing. I don't know what to add to this. I mean, it was clear, simple for everyone. Everyone can try it and
Yeah.
utilize it even in our day-to-day lives.
Yes.
Um,
It's a interesting method. I would tell you that there are five patterns, but you don't have to master all five. Just learn one and learn it really well. My
okay.
wife, for example, when I met her, she's very talented but not creative, and she would tell you she was not a very creative person. Uh, Now she's one of the most creative people I know, but she always uses the same tool, Pascal. It's funny. In this case, she happens to use the division technique. And the funny part about it, she doesn't even know she's using it. She'll come up with a great idea, and she'll look at me and she goes, "Now, what tool is that again?" She doesn't even remember, but it's so
That,
innate to her now.
yeah,
That's what these patterns can do. You practice them, you like a language. You practice them
that's yeah.
and you start to master it, and it becomes second nature, and you start to dream in that language. I'm sure you've had this between your native language of French and English, right? You switch between languages in your dreams. And she just now uses that pattern all the time, solves any problem. It's amazing. Uh,
That's
and
funny. And can we train ourselves as well? So selecting one of the techniques and I mean, you have a look at a lamp and you say, okay, if I apply the technique, what could I learn
ah,
or what could I do? And
yeah.
then and you practice regularly when you're waiting for in the lift or waiting in
Oh,
you don't have anything to do. You just do that exercise yourself. And
so I'm laughing because you and I just met, and it's like you and I have been talking for years, because I teach my students, Pascal, I mean this seriously. I teach them a technique called mental simulation, so that when they're waiting in an airport and have nothing to do, they look at a lamp and they imagine using one of the techniques to sharpen the saw and to perfect their understanding of the pattern. You just described mental simulation, which is a technique that many athletes use or trial attorneys will use. They'll mentally simulate running the course on a downhill slalom, for example, or a racetrack. And trial attorneys will mentally simulate the closing argument, right? So you
excellent.
can mentally simulate creative thinking. And it's a great way.
Yeah.
I do it all the time. I do it
Yes, you
all
do it all
because it's
time.
fun.
Yeah, because it's fun. Excellent.
Yeah.
And you yeah, I mean, like it's not like a medicine where you would say you should do this once per day for 15 minutes. But yeah, regularly when you find yourself in
Yeah.
a position of not having anything special to do, getting fun because it's
It
that's
is
the
fun.
point. You get fun doing it.
Mhm.
Uh, and do
Amazing,
you
huh?
write it somewhere? Do you write your some ideas somewhere or
Oh
just to
yeah,
make sure you remember them?
I do. I used to. I've trained all over the world for the last 20 years, and I used to keep. I'm reaching down here. I used to keep logbooks. I won't pull them out, but I a journal, and I have dozens of these journals with ideas in them. For example, let me give you one of my favorite. I was just explaining this today. I was training, and I asked the person to pick a product that they wanted to work with. They picked a yoga mat. Okay, a yoga mat.
Okay.
Now, can you think of a more simple product than a yoga mat? What is a yoga mat? It's just a flat
Yes.
piece of foam. That's all it is.
Yes.
Well, we applied the task unification technique. We created a yoga mat that has drawings of your hand where they should go for a particular position.
Wow.
That position is sticky. In other words, the mat is holds your hand in position. If you turn it over, it's another position. And so it gives you the ability to train in a position while holding you steady. So it's a sticky training yoga mat. Now, if you're a manufacturer of yoga mats, what do you sell today? One yoga mat per person, but now you could sell a collection. Here's 6 yoga mats. And
One per position. Yes.
well, two, one on each side. So
Yes,
for six mats or 5 mats, you get 10 positions, and they become training mats. Isn't that amazing? I mean, it's amazing.
yes.
One application of task unification to an extremely simple product yielded a growth opportunity for a yoga mat company. I just, that's why I have so much fun with it.
I love it. Drew, thank you so much. I don't want to take more of your time, and we've been through so much already that yeah, we need to
This has
digest
been
all
fun.
these. We need to digest and train ourselves to all this. Thank you so much. Just in the last 1-2 minutes, can you tell us where we can find your work,
Yeah,
if you want to drill further? And yeah,
absolutely. Thank you. So people can learn more about me at my website, which is drewboyd.com.
okay,
They can also check me out on LinkedIn Learning, where I have a course called Thinking Creatively. And of course, our book, which is called Inside the Box. And it describes the method. It's co-authored with my dear friend Jacob Goldenberg, on whose research this is based. And it's a nice little book. It's in 19 languages now around the world, and we get praise for it from people that read the book. So it's available. And like you, Pascal, we believe in being completely transparent, giving everybody what we have, and sharing. So we're completely open to share anything that we have in terms of examples or method, particular techniques or processes.
amazing. Thank you so much, Drew. That was
My
really
pleasure.
insightful and exciting. Thank you.
Great. All the
And
best.
and to the audience, see you next time with another insightful discussion.